If you're at an early stage startup, you're in the right place. We should be able to get our startups over the hump and without guessing or throwing spaghetti. Marketing is an important part of your go-to-market strategy, but you need to understand the why behind the what in order to get clarity, make the right decisions, and get results. Welcome to Season 4, where I'll be asking why in order to help bring more clarity to the messy world of early stage startup marketing. Ryan Bettencourt, he is the co-founder of Growth Collective, and Growth Collective connects high-growth startups, agencies, and VC firms with vetted and highly experienced fractional marketing experts. And so I'm excited, Ryan. Thanks for joining me here today.
Thank you. I'm excited too.
I'm excited to talk about this topic that I mentioned before I pressed the record button. I don't get a chance to really talk about this, and I think it deserves way more attention. So let me just kind of set things up here, and then we'll jump into it. So there are so many skills that you need in a marketing hire. You need content marketing, you need growth marketing or demand gen, whatever you want to call it, and you need product marketing. And it's really hard to find that needle in a haystack that's like amazing at all of that, right? There's no way that a marketer will be good at everything. Plus, there are so many marketing channels out there. It's really challenging for a company to spend, I don't know, 100 grand, 120, 150K and hire one single marketer and be super happy with the result. So traditionally, companies had to choose between hiring somebody in-house or hiring a team of people. More likely, if you're an early stage startup, you're not hiring a team of people. You just want to hire one person that does it all, right? Or an agency. But with the rise of remote work and solopreneurs, many of the best marketers are now working for themselves, including me, right? You got your CMOs, your VPs, your directors, execs, jumping ship and working for themselves and working with clients. They're turning into solopreneurs or building very, very small and lean teams. Like what I did was I'm a solopreneur, but I have contractors that work with me. If I need an SEO expert, I got her. If I need a designer, I got him. If I need, paid ads, of course, I'll pull that in, right? So companies can leverage the talent of fractional marketers who are experts in their respective specific fields. And those people can contribute 5, 10, 20 hours per week, exactly where you need them. You could just be like way more precise. Anything you want to add there? That's a mouthful. And I just wanted to ask you, Ryan, we're getting closer to the questions, but I feel like we need this setup first.
I think that's the right setup. And I think what oftentimes people miss, we believe that works really well for a variety of companies, smaller companies, mid-sized companies, startups, agencies, et cetera, et cetera. But we also think that it works well for the talent and allows those that are truly good at a specific channel to win at a higher level as well, right? Because there is sort of a bucket. If you're really good at influencer marketing, or you're really good at paid search, or you're really good at something else, and you get hired full time, you may be sort of bucketed in a certain price range. And so you go work for a company that is looking for, a general digital marketer that might be good at influencer marketing, might be able to also do some SEO, and maybe they can do some paid search or something else. But if you're truly great at influencer marketing, you're going to be at a company told that you're going to make X amount of money. But if you're really great at that, you can go work with 2 or 3 companies at a time. And actually, it'll be more cost efficient for the company, but the actual talent can make more money because they're making an impact, immediately making an impact. They can do a lot of work in 10 or 15 hours a week. They can get paid more on an hourly basis. And the aggregate of that actually ends up being more money and a more flexible lifestyle.
Yeah. You're telling me, Ryan, you don't have to change my mind about anything. So just getting the foundation set here. So I think that full-time workers working in corporate, they don't have time to spend on things like research, insights, strategy, trends, and other very specific marketing expertise areas because people are super busy leading, or they're in
Yeah.
meetings, or maybe executing, depending on the size of the team. But again, there are things that they just, they can't do everything. So they'll need to bring in people from the outside that actually have the time. And whether that's hiring a full-time person or bringing in someone that's not full-time, they need the help with that other stuff. So I think of it as like these people you bring in from the outside that are part-time helping you out. They're like extensions of your team. So instead of workforce, you've got this work web extensions of your team. And when I say, by the way, other marketing expertise areas, I'm talking about paid search, paid social, content marketing, email marketing, SEO, influencer marketing, affiliate marketing, someone that's like a fractional CMO. But again, it's hard to find a person that's really good at those three areas: product marketing, content marketing, demand gen.
Yeah.
So if you're a savvy leader, you've already caught on to this opportunity. I think it's a huge opportunity for startups for sure, right? That want to be lean, nimble, but still get the expertise, but are also larger companies. And so savvy leaders are already caught on to this and are implementing this, because I don't think this trend is going anywhere. I believe it's only going to become more powerful over time as CMOs, VPs, directors, execs are jumping ship, becoming solopreneurs, and they've got their expertise and they're helping companies in a very specific way. So really quick, before we go on to the questions, I wanted to mention work web is my term, but it's not new. This idea is not new. It actually comes from this man named Gary Bowles, who wrote the book, The Next Rules of Work. He first came up with the idea of the work net. But I kind of like work web more because I can visualize it. I can visualize like you've got your team inside the company and you've got your work web, like the web extensions of your team, right? So I kind of like that versus work net, but I'm not the first person to
Yeah.
come up with this idea. So
Yeah. I like it.
cool. All right. So what are your just general thoughts on work web, and where do you see this going? And what have you already seen? We'll get into like the growth collective.
Yeah.
You've got a bunch of companies that are working with
Yeah.
a bunch of fractionals. And I want to talk about what's happening on there. Is it growing in popularity? Are people still nervous about it? Like, what's your general sense?
Yeah. I mean, I think we all got forced to work remotely. And then some companies are trying to force people to reverse that and not
Yes.
be remote. And somebody said, I forget who it was, somebody said, people will come back to the office when you give them enough good reason to do so, right? And that there often isn't enough good reason to do so, right? And so we see a lot of people who didn't want to go back, or a lot of companies that haven't been as loyal to their employees as maybe the employees thought they were going to be, that went to be independent. And so there are a lot more people, and particularly a lot more really good people that are independent and want to stay independent and want to not just be independent so they don't have to go to an office, but be independent so they can work with the companies they want to work with on projects that they find interesting and inspiring with people that they want to work with. And so we think on the freelance side, that's not going wrong. On the company side, you're definitely seeing folks that embraced it a couple of years ago proactively, that saw that as a trend and saw the advantages of it, immediately embraced it, right? And so there are definitely a lot of companies that are immediately embracing it. We see companies that are creating these hybrid models where they're actually in their HR strategy defining which positions they feel should be a full-time in-house hire and which positions should be some kind of hybrid or fractional or freelance hire. We're seeing a lot more of that. We're actually seeing a number of companies create their own agencies. So instead of hiring an agency, they'll create an internal agency where the company is the customer, but the agency is also part of the company. And what we find interesting there is are actually hiring fractional freelancers, folks to fill the agency. They're not hiring full-time folks to fill the agency. We're seeing that with a lot of larger brands. And we find that to be pretty interesting, right? This sort of interesting new model. We're seeing a lot of folks still try to get their head around that this isn't hiring somebody on a project basis necessarily, right? So people, I think, still in their heads think, I'm hiring a freelancer. And immediately they start to think, well, I'm hiring a freelancer due to a very specific job, get in and then get out. Because that is sort of the start of freelance work. And that's why there are a lot of new terms coming about, fractional being the sort of one that everybody's starting to embrace, is defining a difference between freelance and somebody that is
Yes.
ongoing, working for you 10,
Yes.
15, 20 hours a week, right? And not just doing a project and getting out, but going in and having that person for 15 or 20 hours on an ongoing basis.
I am pro this, obviously, but I also have experienced this. Like the
Yeah,
way to really mold yourself into a company, and that's what companies should want versus I just want to hire a social
right,
media manager to like do that side project thing for me.
right.
You actually want to ingrain them into your workplace because that's
Yeah,
where they can, first of all, they're more motivated, right? Because you're
yeah,
including them.
absolutely.
They're kind of part of the team. And just because they're not full time hires doesn't mean that they can't be part of the team.
Yeah,
So staying on with a client, originally I thought, okay, I'll do this 4-month retainer and then I'm out and move on to the next one. But what I found is sometimes I stay on for longer, staying on as an advisor
yeah,
or getting a client that I worked with before coming back, right? So that's beautiful. That's what the experience should be for both the company and for the fractional.
yeah. And we see that as being much more common. And I think so, it's definitely grown significantly every year over the last few years. It's definitely grown. We think all markets are trying to figure out a few things. And once the markets figure out those few things, I think most companies will adopt this kind of work web, right? Because ultimately, there are things to figure out, like you said. So, things that we hear about are, well, the leadership has embraced it, but the person, say, that needs to interact with them on a daily basis, right? If you're an agency and you hire a fractional person to help with paid search, when the client is freaking out, can you contact them at 8 o'clock in the morning? So there are things like that we're trying to figure out. What level of oversight and discipline do you give that person? How much can you define hours? Do you invite them to the holiday party, right?
Yes, 100%. They could say no.
Yes.
I feel like this is a new development of work, an option for how you want to work. And it doesn't have to look like the old way. Like you
Yes.
had mentioned,
Correct.
freelancers. Oh,
Correct.
like I'm just going to get a contractor. I'm just going
Yeah.
to go on Fiverr or Upwork and just get someone to do this job.
Yeah.
No, you can actually think about it as extensions of your
Yeah.
team. And I love this idea of like the companies that are already starting to develop these internal agencies. They're people that are not full time, but they're rounding out into like the go to market team or whatever they're working on. And it's still like the company is the client. So they have to deliver the work.
Yeah. They're doing exactly what you said, right? Is I have this person that's a really great designer. So okay, so we're a consumer packaged goods company and we're launching a new product. Well, okay, we've got this person in our in-house agency that's an amazing designer. We've got this person that's really great at influencer marketing. And we have this person that's, so they know the reason why they're building those internal agencies is so they know they can tap those people, right? So they're not hiring them full time, but they have access to them to make impact when they need to make impact, right? And that ultimately is what you want in work, right? Is let's all get our job done. Let's do it well. So then we can all be social together, right?
Right, right.
Let's have impact in the hours that we're having impact.
Let's get the best people on this project, right? And you have access to those people and they're actually working for themselves. Like I have a huge list of people too now over the course of the 4 years where I met people that are
Yeah.
really good at one thing or another. And I go back to that list. And if the client doesn't need my help, I'm going to refer that other person or refer Growth Collect. Go on Growth
Yeah.
Collective and
Exactly.
find your person. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Thank you. I think that's where we're hoping to get. I think the challenge still is people trying to get their head around it. So what we find is some really talented people that are like, they take a fixed price role and that's a few hours. And then they take a retainer role that's ongoing for 15 hours. And then they may take an hourly role. That's ultimately where folks win, I believe, in this world, is that somebody really talented like you can say, okay, I have 2 clients at a time or 3 clients at a time, right? I'm doing 15 hours a week with 3 different clients, or I'm doing 20 hours a week for 2 different clients. And when we collectively embrace that, I think we're going to take another leap forward, both for the talented people, but also for the companies, right? Because then they know for 20 hours a week, this person's going to do an amazing job. And this is what we're trying to educate people on is we'll get somebody saying, I want somebody that's they're good at influencer marketing, SEO, like for email marketing, etc. And I want 40 hours a week for 6 months. And we have to educate them of it would be better to take somebody that's really brilliant and also loves influencer marketing, right? For 20 hours a week, have this other person for 20 hours a week, right? And so now you have world-class folks in both, right? It's not really a lot of extra management. And we actually at Growth Collective sometimes help with that management, right? And I think that's where we're going. The other thing is like when you look at that, you now can find people where they find their niches, right? So like we have folks that are really good at paid search for fintech, right? Paid search for fintech is very different than paid search for other industries because you need to understand regulatory stuff. You need to understand language stuff. You understand what you can and can't say. And instead of a company having to educate somebody when they hire a marketer that might not have fintech experience, they can hire somebody for 20 hours a week that already comes in. They already know all of that stuff.
Totally. Totally. You don't have to convince me on that either, because there are certain industries that are just like, wow, that is so different. Like ed tech. I headed up marketing at
Yeah.
an ed tech startup. So if you sell to school districts and schools
Yeah.
and, are talking to superintendents and principals, it's very different from talking to CMOs.
Yeah.
And then also dev tech and talking to engineers and developers. And what does marketing look like for that? What does a website look like for that? What is the,
Yeah.
go-to-market strategy? So I agree with you. There's
Yeah.
certain industries where having that extra expertise is so helpful and will help you grow so much faster.
Yeah. It's interesting because this isn't new, right? It's newer for marketing, right? So when you go to somebody, if somebody comes, I've run product and a bunch of other things in startups. And if you're hiring an engineering team, I think everybody would agree that you can't hire a full stack developer that's going to be good at the full stack of things, right? Like that is good at UI development and front end, that's good at just back end basic development, it's good at infrastructure, that's good. Like, you go through the whole thing and you don't see somebody that puts together a job rec that says the person needs to be good at all of that. But we still do that in marketing, right? Development and engineering, they solved that a long time ago with fractional and distributed teams and big platforms that like TopTal and some of these others that have focused on that exact thing. And now, it's because there's so many, just like there are different languages of engineering, there are different channels that marketing has to embrace the same thing.
Totally. Yeah. I'm going to kind of flip it over to you in the time that we have and see if you have a question that you want to ask me.
So I'm curious from your perspective, because I know you work with quite a few early stage startups, and early stage startups right now are being challenged, right? It's a difficult time to raise capital. It's a difficult time to grow. They're being asked to do a lot more with little. I'd be curious from your perspective and from the perspective of some of your customers, if they have limited budgets.
Oh, they definitely have limited budgets.
They definitely have limited budgets. Where do you steer them as you have to do these channels, right? You can do influencer marketing, you can do this, but maybe you have to do email marketing or you have to do, paid or whatever. Where are you steering people right now for particularly early stage companies that are challenged with budgets?
Yeah. I never really think about it as like, you have to do this channel.
Yeah.
What I think about more is like, and what I try to communicate and help with is you have to understand who is your target buyer. And especially early stage startups, sometimes it's a little hard to figure that out, but they're getting learnings like every day, right? People that are intrigued, people that are interested, people that are reaching out, they're having discovery calls, they're getting their first customers. And that's the early stage startups I work with. So
Yeah.
who is that person? Can you figure out more about them and have empathy for them?
Yeah.
I start there. I don't start at the like, you must do those channels and execute, get going and grow, right? I start at like, do you have enough understanding to figure out your strategy? If you don't, let's take a moment. Let's understand what was the trigger that made them want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Why are they so intrigued by what your offering is? Because you're early. So what the heck were they thinking, right? And
Yeah.
I try to help them figure out those insights, uncover those insights, get to know these people, and then figure out where do they hang out online, offline. And that helps me then make a more thoughtful recommendation as far as channels. But I try to go in with an open slate.
Yeah.
Because every client, I've worked across different industries across these past 4 years. And then prior to starting my own thing, I worked in ed tech and food tech and worked at Groupon, worked at B2C companies. And so I try to come in with a clean slate every time. And until I get to know who's our target buyer, what was that trigger that made them want to reach out? What's the value that their offering brings to them? Where do they hang out? Then I can make more strategic, thoughtful recommendations on the channels, but not before that.
I love that answer because the typical way that we meet a new client on the Growth Collective platform is they say, I'm looking for somebody that can set up my Facebook ads, right? And then we reach out and you're like, why? What are you trying to accomplish? We try and match them and they're not sure what they're looking for. And we ask them why they're looking to buy Facebook ads. It's like, well, because our competitor's buying Facebook ads.
Is that the answer that they give?
Oftentimes, a lot of the times we get, well, because everybody's buying or everybody or my competitors. We did some research and we saw that our competitor is buying a lot of Facebook ads, or our competitors started buying TikTok ads, or our competitors started doing a bunch of email marketing, right? And so because they're doing it, we must do it, right? Well, are you going after the same customers? Are you going after the same target market? Are your customers, they may look similar to your competitors, but like, where do you find the ones that really resonate with what you're doing versus what they're doing?
Yeah. Hopefully you're building a different product and not the same thing as your competitors. I mean, if it's exactly copycat, then by all means, do the same stuff they're doing, but that's like a really bad place to be. Yeah. So that's a great question. And it's also interesting to hear like clients that you get on Growth Collective that want to find somebody. Those are the types of conversations that just don't go very well. Like if I get on a discovery call with someone and they're like, we need you to execute. And I've had those before. I'm like, well, you don't need me. You just, if that's what you think you need, then go find somebody that'll help you do those Facebook ads or, whatever else they want to do. But
sorry, can I ask you one other question, which is,
sure.
So there's this ecosystem that's trying to connect talent like you with interesting companies, right? There's us, there are a lot of others, right?
Yeah.
Are there things that sometimes you're like, if they would just do this, right? Or are there things that the ecosystem can do to help you do your job better, find better clients, et cetera? Are there things that sometimes you wish like you could tell the networks, the platforms that we need to do better?
Yeah, I think like the natural process for how I get my clients, and I bet a lot of other solopreneurs and fractionals, is first we have a call and we just chat and I help them already. And if they see the value, like they ask you. So one platform I like to use, and it's not paid at all, is actually Growth Mentor.
Okay, yeah.
And Growth Mentor, you get people in there and you just have a chat for half an hour and then they give you a review. So I've racked up like, I don't know, 50 reviews. Like once I hit 100, I think I get some kind of really big thing. So I'm trying to rack it up to 100 reviews. But the thing I like about it is it falls into that natural, like I can help you. We don't need to work together. You can see the value already from talking to me. So building that in as part of the platform, I think would be really helpful. Just like to help with relationship building and not necessarily this exchange of money right from the start.
That's a great comment. I love that.
Yeah. So hopefully that helped, but great to have you on a topic that I don't give enough attention to and I think deserves way more. I don't think a lot of executives, leaders at companies don't realize how much of this is going on, and it's growing, and it will just over time get even bigger as people realize this is amazing. I've
Yeah.
realized that over the past 4 years, like, this is amazing. This is exactly how I want to build my work life.
Yeah.
And so thank you for joining me, Ryan. Loved it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Great chat.
Thanks for listening to this weekly episode of Modern Startup Marketing. New episodes are dropping weekly, so make sure you're following wherever you get your podcasts. You can find me on LinkedIn, search for Anna Furmanov, visit my website to learn more about how I help early stage startups, go to furmanovmarketing.com, and don't forget to leave a review if you're loving the show.